Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Adrien. I've been working around 8 years in crypto. I started as a smart contract analysis auditor, and I was working for a Web2 security company. And then I worked for Consensus. I worked on MetaMask and Infura for around 4 years. And about 2 years ago, I joined Google as a Web3 principal architect. So today I'm going to talk about briefly what Google is doing in the Web3 space. Then I'll talk about the intersection of Web3 and AI, and then explain a little bit what the AI stack is at Google, and then show you some of the demos that we have, depending on the time we have. So when you hear about Web3 and Google, generally you'd not necessarily think about Google, but we actually do a lot of things in crypto, and there are different entities within Alphabet that are actually working in crypto. It's really Google Cloud that's spearheading the kind of like crypto strategy at Alphabet. We have around 100 full-time employees working on Web3. We have dedicated experts coming from industry knowledge, like myself, but we also have researchers and sales and so on. We also accept crypto payments. We have a lot of products as well. We have an RPC. We have a validator as a service for Ethereum staking. We have blockchain analytics. We have a lot of things. We also have Google Labs, which is formerly Google X, that is working on blockchain research, right? Like researchers, and also ZK research. We had a ZK Summit last summer about ZK. I think very importantly, Google has crypto and is running a lot of validators in a lot of networks. So we're running validators on Ethereum, Ronin, Polygon, Aptos, more recently EigenLayer. We run a bunch of AVSs, and that's really important and sends a strong signal as well for the community. Google Play is also experimenting with NFTs and crypto. So maybe you've seen that now you can have NFT-based applications on Google Play. You still can't buy them with the ERC20s. You have to use credit cards, but it's going there. It's a good step in the right direction. And then also Google has invested in Web3 companies such as Vireblocks and Yuga Labs. Okay. So that was a quick introduction of what Google is doing in the Web3 space. And of course, you know that there is, Google is really focusing on AI. So when you think about Web3 and AI, I think there are two ways to think about it. The first one is, how can Web3 help AI? And the second one is, how can AI help Web3? And so the first slide here is Web3 for AI. So how can Web3 help AI? And it's not, I think it's something that is a bit further down the line, but still I'm going to start with that, even if it's not really what we focus on necessarily. So I think there are three main topics where Web3 can help AI. The first one is decentralized AI. What I mean by that is proving that, for example, when you call an AI model, proving that it's using the right model, it's using the right data. Because when you call it, then the answer you have could be anything. And so having some kind of decentralized network or like ZK proofs or stuff like that to prove that it's using this model, this data, could be very valuable. The second thing is around fakes. You have a lot of AI content nowadays, so having some kind of notarization on the blockchain, digital signature notarization, traceability of whether it's an article, whether it's an image, making sure that, okay, it's coming from this news outlet, or it's coming from this famous author, or stuff like that is very important, and we're probably going to see more and more of that kind of things happening. And the last thing is incentivized data and training. So basically using Web3 tokens and the marketplace that we know of already. For example, EigenLayer marketplace is a good example of how you can incentivize people to run AVS and stuff like that. Similarly, we could have using Web3 to incentivize people to give GPU or hardware to do some data training or even inference, right? But that is a bit in the future, right? I don't think we have this kind of stuff ready to use. And the flip side of the coin, right, is how can AI help Web3, and I think most of the use cases that we're seeing nowadays is really around that. And here is a snapshot of all of the kind of use cases that we are seeing at Google with the different customers that we are working with. So those are in production or being researched heavily, and most of them we have products or demos working behind. So we've classified them into the 3 categories: complex data intuitively accessible. So how can you do like market research, sentiment analysis? I can show you a quick slide on. We have a product that is doing sentiment analysis for Web3 company to see what's happening on Twitter, what's being said. Is the sentiment positive or negative? Customer support analysis to evaluate if an agent or a bot are doing the job correctly. Is a specific model working properly and stuff like that. AI Explorer, I think we're going to see more and more of that, and the demo that I'm going to show is going to show that exactly. AI interface, we see more and more wallets showing exactly what the transaction is going to do, and that's very important for user experience, but also security. Chatbots, we talk a lot about AI agents, even if it's a bit risky still to give your private key to an agent. I think it's going to be very interesting to be able to do some complex exit and entry strategies, for example, very easily, and have the agent handling your private key. Developer productivity, and something we don't, in content generation, something we don't really talk about a lot is translation. Right? Translation is, we see a lot of our customers using this translation, whether it's by training, also using their own style of writing, they can fine-tune their models to have some good translations. So these are kind of like the different use cases that we're seeing. Very quickly, the AI stack, I think Google is probably one of the only actors with the whole stack that owns from the TPU and the GPUs, so the hardware, to the governance layer, and then to the database, BI tools, and then the whole AI ML platform that I'm going to deep dive a little bit on, and then a bunch of solutions and services that we own that are using this kind of tools. So when we talk about AI and ML at Google Cloud, we have Vertex AI, and we have 3 main components there. We have Model Garden, Model Builder, and Agent Builder. And I know that I have to go quite fast, but the first one is Model Garden. It's a marketplace where you can basically, in a few clicks, install, deploy, and use any of one of the 150 plus models that we have. These models are not just Google models, right? Mainly, they are open source models and third-party models. So you see, for example, any model that you have on Hugging Face or Kaggle, you can select them and you can deploy them in a few clicks and experiment with them. We have agreements with Mistral, with Llama, with Claude, for example, and you can deploy them very easily. We also have first-party models as well, as you might know, Gemini, Imagen, and also we have now open source first-party models that are the Gemma game models that you see here. So that's what Model Garden is basically about. And then when you have deployed these models, then you have a model builder that are a set of tools to make your models fine-tuned and more useful, basically. You can evaluate them, you can improve the prompt, so you have a lot of evaluation tools and managing tools and pipelines and so on that are very easy to use for you to make the models more useful. And on top of that, then how do you include these models into an agentic workflow, right? So you want to make sure that it's grounded with some real data. So, like for example, recently an airline had to refund a ticket because the bot said that it could be refunded. So this kind of stuff, when your bot says something or your agent says something, you have to make sure that it's really the case, right? So grounding the data is very important, making sure that you can orchestrate and do some RAG and stuff like that is basically what the agent builder is about. So those set of tools, I recommend that you take a look. Okay, so very quickly here, as a demo, what we did in collaboration with Berachain is actually some kind of like transaction analyzer. So on the top here, what you have is you have Google Doc, and you can see that you have Gemini pop up to say like, hey, what can I do? I can summarize this document. I can help you do some stuff with this document. Similarly, you can imagine in an Explorer having some kind of things that says, hey, we can summarize this transaction for you. And so the way it works is basically you have this tool where you can input some kind of transaction hash, or it could be directly included in the blockchain explorer. And then it will take the information from the blockchain explorer, like the source code. It will take information like the transaction details. It will take all of these, give it to Gemini Flash in that case, but you can use any model. And then you have an example of the prompts we're using. And then it will return some explanation of what the transaction is doing. And so as an example, so that's where I don't know how to do. Okay, I think I can't. Okay, so as an example here, when you input the transaction hash of a bearer chain transaction, it's going to take all of this information, like the source code and the transaction details, and it's going to give it to the agent. And what you're going to be displayed here is basically business analysis and parameters analysis, technical analysis. And what you see that's interesting is that the parameters here are rate, and I can't see from here, but yeah, it's like setting some commission rate, right? And the rate parameter here is 500. If you don't read the source code, you don't know what 500 means. But if you read the source code, you know that this 500 corresponds to 5% because the denominator is 10,000. So this kind of stuff, if you're not a developer and you don't know what is the function that is called and stuff like that, then you will not be able to do these kind of things. So having an AI explorer showing that is quite interesting. And the other thing that it does as well, it explains all of this, of course, but then it extracts the snippet of the source code where that is the trace, basically, that the transaction is calling. So if you're a developer, sometimes you want to debug some stuff, and you go on Etherscan, on whatever blockchain explorer. Sometimes it's quite difficult to find the actual source code that you care about. Here it could be doing it automatically. You're like, okay, I care about this transaction. Here is the source code that you care about among, I don't know, 5,000 lines of code, right? So this kind of stuff, quite easy, but could be quite interesting for explorers to integrate. Okay, so I had a bunch of other stuff, but I think I don't have time. I just wanted to quickly have a word on Real-Time Reputation Defender, which is basically a tool to that will scrape data, and maybe I'll show the architecture here, scrape data from YouTube, Discord, Twitter, all of the kind of source that you care about, and then it will use some RAG services to kind of like, and Google search implementation to understand if the sentiment of what people are talking about your project or any incident or events that you want to configure is positive or negative, and then it will show you some kind of like trend about the sentiment score, right? And so this product is actually being built, and we are deploying it with a few customers already. So if you're interested about this kind of topics, please feel free to reach out. I have a screenshot here of what it looks like. You can basically create a new incident, a new event. So for example, I don't know, the BingX hack, right? Like for example, or any incident or your company name, for example. And then it will automatically, you give some context about what it is that you care about and some examples, and then it will automatically go through the different sources and then create a dashboard for you with the sentiment analysis trend. And also it will tell you how to remediate, right? It will give you some action plan on how using AI to tell you, hey, if you want, like you just had a hack and the sentiment score is plummeting, maybe you want to, communicate with the community how to remediate, how to tell what you're going to do, who you're going to reimburse, make the timelines quite clear and so on by looking at what worked for other companies on the similar topics and so on. So these kind of tools are quite interesting as well. And I think my time is up by 5 minutes. Sorry. Thank you so much.